They believe that having known the end of their cycle, mankind would prepare for what is to come in the future, and it is because of this that they would have preserved the dominant species, the human race. They say that coming changes will permit us to make a quantum leap forward in the evolution of our consciousness to create a new civilization that would manifest great harmony and compassion to all humankind. Their first prophecy talks about the time of no time. That's an interesting title, The Time of No Time. You know, it really makes you think. It's a period of 20 years, which they call a Katun. The last 20 years of the sun cycle of 5,125 years. This cycle is from 1992 to 2012. I'll explain this in greater detail later. They predicted that during these times, solar winds would become more intense and could be seen on the sun. This would be time of great realization and great change for mankind. And it would be our own lack of preservation and contamination of the planet that would contribute to these changes. According to the Mayans, these changes would happen so that mankind comprehends how the universe works, so we could advance to superior levels, leaving behind superficial materialism and liberating ourselves from suffering. The Mayans say that 7 years after the start of Katun, which is to say 1999, we would enter a time of darkness which would force us to confront our own conduct. They say that this is the time when mankind will enter the sacred hall of mirrors, where we will look at ourselves and analyze our behaviors, with ourselves, with others, with nature, with the planet in which we live. A time in which all of humanity, by individual conscious decisions, decides to change and eliminate fear and lack of respect from all of our relationships. The Mayans prophesied that the start of this period would be marked by a solar eclipse on August 11th, 1999, known to them as the 13th Ahau, 8 Kauk. It would coincide with an unprecedented planetary alignment, the Grand Cross alignment. This would be the last 13 years of the Katun period. The last opportunity for our civilization to realize the changes that are coming at the moment of our spiritual regeneration. Pretty heavy prophecies from the Mayans. For the Mayans, everything's numbers and the time of the 13 sacred numbers started in August 1999. They predicted that along with the eclipse, the forces of nature would act like a catalyst of change so accelerated and with such magnitude that mankind would be powerless against them. Also, that our technologies in which we rely on so much would begin to fail us. We would no longer be able to learn from our civilization in the way that we are organized as a society. They said that our internal spiritual development would require a better place, along with a better way to interact with more respect and compassion. The first prophecies were attained by their study of our sun, and the Mayans discovered that the entire solar system moved, that even our universe has its own cycles, repetitive periods which begin and end like day and night. These discoveries led to the understanding that our solar system rotates on an ellipse that brings the solar system closer and farther from the center of the galaxy. In other words, according to the Mayans, our sun and all of its planets rotate in cycles in relation to the center of the galaxy, or Hunab Ku, the central light of the galaxy. It takes 25,625 years for our solar system to make one cycle of this ellipse. One complete cycle is called a galactic day. The cycle is divided into two halves similar to our day and night. The half closest to the central light is our solar system's day, and the half furthest away is its night. Each day and each night lasts 12,800 years, which is to say the central galaxy is the sun for our entire solar system. The Mayans discover that every grand cycle has its minor cycles that carry the same characteristics. One galactic day of 25,625 years is divided into 5 cycles of 5,125 years. The first cycle is the galactic morning, when our solar system is just coming out of the darkness to enter the light. The second cycle is the midday, when our solar system is closest to the central light. The third cycle is the afternoon, when our solar system begins to come out of the light. The fourth, the late night, and when our solar system has entered its furthest cycle from the central light. The fifth and last cycle is the night before dawn. When our solar system is in its last cycle of darkness before starting again, this is the cycle we are currently coming out of. The Mayan prophecy tells us that in 1999, our solar system began to leave the end of the fifth cycle, which started in 3113 BC, and that we find ourselves in the morning of the galactic day, exiting darkness and on the verge of being in plain day of our central galaxy in 2012. They say that at the beginning and end of these cycles, which is to say every 5,125 years, the central sun or light of the galaxy emits a ray of light so intense and so brilliant that it illuminates the entire universe. It is from this burst of light that all of the suns and planets sink. The Mayans compare this burst to the pulse of the universe, beating once every 5,125 years. It is these pulses that mark the end of one cycle and the beginning of the next, each pulse lasting 20 years, or a katun. So we come back to what they call the time of no time. It is an evolutionary period, short but intense, inside the grand cycles where great changes take place to thrust us into a new age of evolution as individuals and as mankind. As individuals, we will have to make decisions that affect us all. If we continue on this negative path of hate, an eye for an eye, destruction of nature, or fear and egoism, we will enter straight into the time of destruction and chaos, and we will disappear as the dominant race of this planet. Now, if we become conscious, according to the Mayans, and realize that we all form part of a great organism, and that we should respect one another and be grateful to our planet, then we will move directly into positive growth, our golden age. Our planet, the sun, and the galaxy are awaiting our decision. It's up to us what will happen in this time of change. Whether we go through a time of suffering and destruction, or we find ourselves united in one positive consciousness moving closer to our next stage. Please notice the events of our planet as evidence that the Mayan prophecies are worth listening to and learning from. Share this information and help us all move toward a better future where we can thrive in a new era of positivity. It has never been so important. So that, folks, is the translation of the Mayan prophecies according to Adashakti.com via December 21st, 2012.com. And it really is prolific if you think about it, and very grand because, I mean, it really kind of mimics what's happening in the world, does it not? You know, our intolerance for things that have happened through the course of history, you know, in a negative way is here, you know? Slavery, racism, environmental degradation, poverty, you know, the gap between the rich and poor. We're all figuring this stuff out. This stuff is being taught at university levels throughout our great world. And it's a real sign of things that are happening. You know, we don't want to be bullies anymore, I believe. You know, we don't want to tolerate racism or sexism or any kind of segregation of any kind. I mean, it's old news. You know, and we are facing, you know, a very important time in history where the planet is depending on us to live symbiotically. Everything depends on how we're thinking now. And quantum physics is kind of pointing us in that direction as well, saying that not only our actions are that important, but also our thoughts, our intent is almost as important as our actions. So we're definitely in an important time in history, and it's really interesting to see that these prophecies really are quite timely. So maybe we should take more heed to the prophecies of the Maya. That's all the time we have today for this segment of 2012. We're going to continue on in the next few broadcasts on how the calendar system works, prophecies from other indigenous cultures and prophets, scientific analysis and reports and their perspective, NASA's ideas,